Hi, everyone. My name is Maria Yulia, and I'm a chief of staff here at EcoMap Technologies. I am joined here with Adama, who is our lead product marketer and who's going to be walking us through some engagement solutions today. Welcome to Ecosystem Talks. Um, Adama, I'd love for you to just kind of start us off with like an introduction to what engagement is, what it means, and like kind of why it's important. Tell us a little bit about your role.
Yeah. So hey everyone. My name is Adama Hennison. I'm the lead product marketer. Engagement is specifically focused on driving engagement for our EcoMap customers platforms. So some of the things that we notice is that we want to make sure to establish a deeper connection and relationship with those new users. My job is where I come in to help the customers make sure that they have a successful launch, as well as that they're driving engagement post-launch when it comes to showcasing exactly how to utilize the platform as a tool, as well as showcasing the value of the eco map itself.
Awesome. Thank you. So what are some like practical strategies that you've kind of involved in some of the ecosystems that you've worked with?
Yeah, so one of the strategies that I actually think that is somewhat overlooked is onboarding. Onboarding is really something that's really important when it comes to converting those new users or those new visitors to users. They've already taken a step to sign up for the platform. We just want to make sure that we're leading them through a specific journey and really integrating them into that specific eco map. So what are some of the questions that you want to showcase when it comes to getting to know those new users? Such as like what type of audience they are. Are they an entrepreneur? Are they a yeah, so are they just like a nonprofit organization, things like that, so that when they actually sign up, they will be able to understand exactly what is available to them when it comes to that onboarding process. Another thing that I've really noticed that I think that is some of our customers do a great job of is really making sure that they link out their eco map from their parent website. So when it comes to really tapping into their existing network, they make sure to have either something added within their navigation bar, or even in their homepage to really shift and convert people from their parent website to the eco map itself, which is really important because like they have already established an existing relationship when it comes to that specific ecosystem. So take advantage of that existing network and your specific audience by making sure to showcase and link it over to the specific eco map. Another one that I think that Connect IND, one of our customers, does a really great job of is that when it comes to building awareness for their platform, they usually run paid ads, so that they really understand who their specific audience is and who's within their ecosystem. So they make sure to run Google search ads to make sure that that shows up when people search specific keywords, so that it will show up to specifically understand exactly what that looks like. So those are just like a couple of things when it comes to like best practices that I've seen adopted from some of our customers. There are plenty more that I can go over throughout this webinar, but those are definitely the three that I've seen the most valuable in.
That's super helpful. Can we dive back into onboarding? So I know you talked about people identifying their different roles, whether they work at a nonprofit or in the education space, and kind of self-identifying that way. Why is that important in order for them to get the most value out of their ecosystem and their eco map?
Yeah, so not everyone is people are different when it comes to audience types. So when it comes to entrepreneurs, there are different stages for entrepreneurs. They might be aspiring entrepreneurs, they might be in a different stage within their business, maybe early stage, mid stage, mature. So each of them have to have like a curated resource or asset that they will utilize based off of what stage or what type of audience they are. Entrepreneurs might be focused more so on like what are some funding opportunities? What are some accelerators available to them? whereas ESOs are actually more so focused on reaching out to those existing entrepreneurs. So it really depends on exactly like what is the end goal or the objective of that specific audience type, which is why you really need to understand exactly like who is within your audience. I always emphasize that that is really the biggest thing that I recommend people to really understand with before even moving forward. And this goes beyond like looking for thought leaders. These are people, everyday people within your ecosystem that are out there doing the work, who are in the field, and really understanding maybe some of their pain points or challenges that they're experiencing within their ecosystem. It could also be demographics. So understanding what are their job titles, their occupations, and then location and geography is also just as important. So when it comes to Baltimore's tech ecosystem, there might be a completely different need versus when it comes to Minneapolis, St. Paul's region ecosystem. So really making sure to understand exactly who is within your ecosystem is really important because you're going to be talking to them and they want to make sure that they can build trust with you and resonate when it comes to that specific messaging and conversation with them.
That makes total sense. And then on that customization piece, I know we have custom guides that we can include on platforms. Is that something you can talk about a little bit more? Give us a little bit more context on like how to best leverage those guides when you're customizing the ecosystem ecomap experience.
Yeah, that is a great question. In the process of really understanding our different customers, we have created a standardization when it comes to specific guides. When it comes to onboarding, playing back into driving traffic to the platform, we start with getting started guides to really integrate the new users into the platform. So the getting started guide really goes over like an overview of what the platform looks like and what the key features are included within the platform. They also talk about a little bit more into the diving deep into an interactive walkthrough of the platform itself. So really helping those users to see exactly what the first steps are and how to actually navigate and utilize it as a tool. And then the last part for the getting started guides is more so focused on curating for audience type. So how to get started as an entrepreneur, how to get started as a growth startup founder, how to get started as a women entrepreneur. Those are a couple of the examples in terms of audience type that really starts to niche down and curate the messaging based off of who it is that you're talking to. So that's what it is for the getting started guide. And when it comes to that specific funnel, I usually recommend like repurposing it when it comes to like onboarding could be a welcome email series. Within your welcome email series, you can, I usually recommend not to do no more than one call to action. So one link max. Two, if you want to, but I don't want to push it because you don't want to overwhelm people with having to take too much action. But in one of the email series, you can direct people back into your platform by linking over to that getting started guide so that they can get an overview of exactly what that eco map looks like.
Got it. Yeah, that's super helpful. So we've got people in the door, we've got people on the platform. How do we keep them in the loop? How do we keep them notified of, new things that are going on?
Yeah, so I think that monthly newsletters and emails is honestly one of the most powerful like marketing tool out there. I know that video and audio are something that are formats that are really growing over time, but email still stands true even through the test of time. So setting up monthly newsletters with your audience is really important, and you can curate that and format that where however you would like. But I always emphasize to be very customer and user centric because you want to be able to give some things that they actually need. So for example, when it comes to a monthly newsletter for a platform like Black Butterfly, that could be focused on upcoming events within that specific ecosystem. So what is happening? So the latest news that's happening within that ecosystem, maybe some assets such as resources or maybe time specific resources that might have a deadline attached to it, as well as maybe highlighting specific programs or people within your ecosystem. So those are just like a couple of ways that you can format it, but you can really get creative with it in terms of repurposing maybe your guides and showcasing like the latest guides that you've produced on your platform. And honestly, there's also another way of really looking into guides as offering it as a sponsorship or as a partnership opportunity. So if you invite someone within your ecosystem to sponsor or to write or participate and collaborate in creating a guide, you can add that to your monthly newsletter so that you're really making sure to notify people that this is something that is available, as well as tapping into their existing network as well. Another thing that you can do when it comes to keeping people on the loop, which I very much emphasize, is take advantage of notification systems. So these are really making sure to set up triggers, automated triggers. This is going back to the onboarding that I mentioned before, actually. So the questions that you're going to ask on your onboarding, when on your onboarding process is going to be really vital when it comes to setting up those type of notification systems. So say, for example, I am an aspiring entrepreneur. I am specifically looking for incubators, and that's something that I mark in my onboarding process. So if you set up a notification system that triggers whenever a new incubator is added to the platform, that allows people to be alerted when those in a timely manner, and make sure to have seamless communication when it comes to those specific assets related to the incubated keywords, so that they can explore and learn a little bit more as to what is available within their ecosystem. And then another one that I usually recommend is also retargeting. So this is a little bit more focused on if someone already visited your platform, but they might have not taken on the next step, or their session was short, then there is a way to integrate that with some of your email marketing provider tools to retarget them and like run an ad on the platform that they specifically are active in, or that they are more familiarized in. There are also kind of similar to how like in retail and e-commerce, there are emails that would be like, oh, your cart is still full. Do you want to buy these products? That can also play in hand and be repurposed when it comes to eco maps. So you can retarget your specific visitors to really encourage them to explore something a little bit different, or look at a different angle to really entice them and engage them to your platform. And then the last thing that I usually recommend, and that I've kind of had fun with, is really getting a little bit creative when it comes to promoting the eco map on the social channels. So where, again, when it comes to understanding your audience, where are they existing? Where are they active? They might be active on LinkedIn, which is what I've seen the most, is that most of the platforms are a little bit more active when it comes to LinkedIn, but you can also curate it if they're more active in Instagram. Focus on showcasing the assets that are actually available on the platform. So for example, one of our templates that we have created for promoting our eco map is specifically focused on feature demos. So feature demos, they are really interactive screenshots or screen recordings on how to actually navigate the platform as a tool. And it allows people to get more of a visual sense before taking that next step of going and visiting the platform to try it out themselves. There is also the set of creating and highlighting the available assets. And those can be, for Instagram, it could be carousels of like screenshots and like small descriptions on like what the asset is about, or even key points, because some people want to get quick information. Key points and bulletin points that you can add to those graphics or within your captions or your text to showcase exactly what is the value of those specific assets. So for example, as for entrepreneurs, maybe they're looking for specific ESOs that are supporting aspiring entrepreneurs. You can create a graphic or carousel that actually walks through the specific like 7 ESOs that are available within MSP startup. guide or the Minnesota St. Paul region ecosystem, and then showcase graphically exactly what are those specific assets that are available, then inviting them to explore a fuller list on like that collection of ESOs that are available. And then I will also say the last point that I just previously mentioned real quick is that take advantage of using your lists. I look at lists as a replacement for spreadsheets. I have been part of like multiple communities where they will share different assets in a spread, like in a Google sheet or an Excel sheet with lists that allows you to actually curate that and then have a collection of those specific assets in one place that is hosted and is easily shareable within your specific ecosystem. So definitely take advantage of creating lists, inviting people to create lists, and then sharing that within your network is definitely another great advantage that you should take, that you should utilize when it comes to promoting it after launch.
Yeah, that was all very, very helpful. I think especially like lists and leaning on your network is super helpful. I know a lot of the ecosystem builders that we work with are super busy people and capacity is often limited. Is there any like specific tools that you recommend to help streamline some of the efforts that you just talked about?
Yeah, so I am always going to be a very big advocate when it comes to AI. But I also think that one of the biggest things is very focused on building systems and processes, specifically automated workflows, systems and processes that you can implement. So if you use, I recommend using Zapier or Make.com to integrate your existing tools so that they're communicating with each other. So you can use Zapier to connect ChatGPT with your like your email marketing provider, or you could also integrate specifically when it comes to even social media content. If you create like an intake form internally, where you're able to input information as to like exactly what you want to focus on for the quarter, you can utilize that and have ChatGPT or Cloud be able to analyze exactly what that specific input is, curate a prompt that allows you to create like a content calendar to understand exactly what you're going to be promoting over that quarter. And then from there, I do highly recommend leaning on the existing templates that Canva has. But if you have a brand guideline, then you're ahead of the game. Utilize your brand guideline when it comes to the existing templates that fits with your branding, and then utilize that to really showcase exactly what your eco map specifically looks like. So those are a couple of the tools. If you're not well versed when it comes to like integrating tools, I also recommend a website called Bardeen.ai, which simplifies you to identify automations or manual processes that you can automate, but just by describing exactly what you're trying to automate. So I would recommend doing that as well if you don't have the time to like integrate those specific tools like Zapier and Make.com. Definitely take advantage of those as well. There's also a really great website that I feel like keeps up to date when it comes to the latest tools when it comes to marketing. And that's called The Rundown, which is hosted by Super Tools. They have a little category for marketing where you can showcase and understand exactly like what are some AI tools that you can implement within your work. And I also really want to emphasize that like when it comes to utilizing AI, it's really important that you're curating it to your specific work. I know that generative AI can sometimes be very general. It can be very vague at times, but if you prompt it the right way with the enough context, then you can get 70-80% of the way there. So that's another thing that I would definitely recommend. Check out Rundown to see a list of other automated tools that you can really start to utilize. And then also, if you have an email marketing provider that you're utilizing right now, definitely explore their available workflows that they have available, because you want to make sure that your emails are automated. So if when it comes to your welcome email series, you want to make sure that you're setting that as a template, and that is going to be triggered whenever a new user signs up for the platform. If it has something more to do with like notifications for specific keywords, then you want to also make sure that you are setting those specific conditions, if then, so that those triggers are set and that people are notified and communicated when it comes to specific access related to whichever condition keywords is implemented within those conditions. So those are just like a couple of tools and processes and things I recommend when it comes to scaling from a for like within your ecosystem. I will also say, and I think that this is something that is a little bit ignored, but is a great way to utilize and try to really expand the impact and what you're trying to share within your ecosystem. Lean into partnerships and sponsorships. And I mean this in a way that is for beyond the case of like, oh, you want to be a sponsor for a panel discussion or for an event. If you know newsletters that are like related to or aligned within your ecosystem, don't be afraid to reach out to the people who run that newsletter and see if you can have run a placement ad or even sponsor the newsletter. Because when it comes to people that already have that specific email list, they have grown trust with that specific their specific audience. So that is another network that you can really tap into to really understand exactly how can you actually talk about your ecosystem or your eco map when it comes to the specific newsletter. And if you're able to really curate and build a relationship with whoever runs the newsletter, that allows to grow credibility when you are advertising it within their newsletter. So definitely take advantage of that and look into other online communities that are already existing that might need an eco map to drive traffic back into that platform. I will also emphasize, be very value focused. You can't just come into a space and then ask for something sometimes. Sometimes you have to give in order to receive. So I recommend when it goes back to like the graphics that you design, that it could be a way to really repurpose that specifically to the online communities or even to that newsletter. So really take advantage and be very value focused to see exactly what are people going to be able to take from and really gain knowledge or information or education, whichever way it is, when it comes to providing that value and making sure that it is a give and take relationship and it's a mutually beneficial relationship when it comes to partnerships.
Totally. And touching a little bit more on those existing networks that are already in your ecosystem, we all love a little bit of like healthy competition. So what else can we like take away from observing similar ecosystems to the ones that we're working in right now?
Yeah, that is a very good question. Because like I think that I don't really like to call it competitive analysis in a sense
All right.
because when it comes to ecosystems, like we usually do work on similar things. But I do think that it is still just as valuable to look into exactly how you're being positioned within your ecosystem. So understanding one, if there are any gaps that any existing ecosystems or platforms are not addressing, how can you specifically address those specific gaps? Or two, which is just the reality of how can you do it better? So there might be a different way or a different angle at looking at things. Maybe some people are able to digest information in a more visual sense, so lean into graphics. Maybe people are a little bit more privy to digesting information through audio, because I mean, I know I love a good podcast. So look at opportunities to like create a seat at the table and then like reach out to people within your ecosystem that have podcasts or even again sponsorship and partnership. You can offer to sponsor a podcast episode as well. So those are a couple of ways that you can really look about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's super helpful. I totally agree that we're all doing similar work. We might as well help each other out and work together to increase our impact. And speaking of impact, can you talk a little bit more on like any numbers or metrics you've seen with platforms that have used engagement and not used engagement, and kind of like what observations you've been able to see with kind of comparing the two?
Yeah. So for people that have engagement, We saw that they experience 168% when it comes to driving traffic to their platform versus those that don't have engagement. The biggest thing that we really notice is that when it comes to you really taking advantage of your parent website and then promoting your eco map on your parent website. So when it came to people who actually linked over to their eco map, we saw an average of 18% when it comes to driving traffic to that eco map versus people who didn't link on their parent website, where we saw 3.55% when it comes to driving traffic. So when it comes to utilizing exactly your, people might not know what an EcoMap is, but they will know who the parent organization is. Making sure to link that back, like link your EcoMap from your parent website is definitely a really, it shows in the results that people are more willing to convert and visit the platform when it comes to promoting it on your site versus just letting it stand alone. So that's definitely like the biggest metric that we saw when it comes to specifically in driving engagement and driving traffic back into the platform. I will also say that again, our most engaged platforms, they've really tapped into email. Philately Live, for example, they do an excellent job of really constantly communicating with their audience. So they send out digests or they send out newsletters to their existing audience to really understand exactly what are the specific assets that are available, what are some upcoming events and news that people can check out, things like that. So really take advantage of communicating with your network and with your ecosystem via email, because that is another avenue where they might be most engaged in, and that's a great avenue to convert people to utilize the platform a little bit more as a tool.
Yeah, I love the idea of kind of meeting people where they're at, whether that's email or social. I think that's like super important. I know we've talked about a lot of like super impactful engagement strategies, and I'd love to show our audience like some examples, maybe of guides or anything that you think would be
Yeah.
helpful. Just kind of give them a visual of what some of these best practices are.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, great.
Share my screen.
Awesome.
Okay, can you see my screen? I'm trying to
Yes,
make sure you're seeing the right screen. I
it
have
looks
a
awesome.
lot of tabs. This happens to me all the time. Just give me one
Take your
second.
time.
Okay, there we go.
Cool.
So this is an example of the featured demo template that we built for one of our customers, Rise Charlotte. So for example, when it comes to featured demos, this is diving a little bit more into an interactive preview and walkthrough on how to actually utilize the platform. So for this one, this is focused on navigating mentorship resources for small business owners in the Charlotte region. And really, has screenshots and screen grabs of the specific platform to really showcase exactly how to get from point A to point B. So first step would be click on the organizations. Next is to utilize search suggestions and then click on the keyword entrepreneur support organization. Then you can filter it further down by your results by typing entrepreneur into the search bar. And then from there, that is like the end. It invites you to in the copy to really test it out for yourself to really showcase exactly how to utilize and navigate it as a tool. So that this one, I definitely recommend doing like screen grabs, some tools that you can utilize when it comes to that. Tango is a great tool to utilize when it comes to especially highlighting those specific steps and walkthroughs when it comes to the platform. Another one that I'm going to share is Asset highlights is another template that I usually recommend as well. This is going back to really highlighting exactly what is available on your ecosystem. So another example for Rise Charlotte, this one is specifically focused on for ESOs for entrepreneurs in Charlotte. And then it invites people to showcase exactly what are those specific ESOs that are available. So Thread Capital was one that is available on our platform. Next, CLT is another one. And then as you can see in this specific graphic, it's focused on the description of the asset as well as some quick bulleted points, because again, some people just want to get straight to the point. So they want to see exactly what the value is or the benefit is when it comes to the asset, which is what the design for this specifically is focused on. And then here's another one, the boost pad. Again, a small blurb about it, and then some key points for the benefits of that specific assets. And then finally, supposedly. So this is another example, again, really highlighting the assets that are specifically available on your eco map. And then invite a call to action for this is really inviting people to explore the full list on the platform. Then another, when it comes to guides, the getting started guide, this is just a general overview of the eco map. So for example, for Black Butterfly, this shows like step-by-step guide on how to get started on this platform. And then it covers 3 core topics, which is standardized within our platforms. One is about Black Butterfly, and the second one is quick start. And then the third one is how to get started. Therefore, about Black Butterfly, this one talks about what the mission of the EcoMap is, a little bit more about their vision, and then as well as just covering a little bit of the key features that are available on the platform. So then after that, the quick start, I feel like is where the people can get the most value on, because this allows them to really get more of like an interactive experience with the platform and learn a little bit more on how to utilize it. So it goes from feature to feature to really walk through exactly how to utilize the platform. So for this one, one of their key features is biz support. We have a short description of what that specific feature is about. And then this was this tool that we use, which is Arcade Software, which I highly recommend when it comes to interactive demos. This allows you to go through a curated journey within the platform within this specific guide. So you click through the entire process to really test out exactly how to utilize it as a tool, and then really understand how to specifically navigate through the platform. Case throughout this part of the, like, what does Black Butterfly's feature actually look like and how do they actually work? And then finally, the next section is how to get started. So this one dives a little bit more deeper into different audience types within the eco map. So are you an entrepreneur? It gives you a couple of tips on how to actually utilize the platform as an entrepreneur, as well as list some assets that are available related to that specific audience type. Are you a woman founder? Then it goes into some recommendations for how to get started as a woman founder, as well as some of the available assets on the platform that you can explore, and then so on and so forth. So then that is the example when it comes to the getting started guide that allows you to really invite people to get started on the platform. Then the next one I want to go over is another standardized one that we are using, which is focus on the getting started as an audience type. So in the previous one for getting started, you saw like a brief overview when it comes to how to get started as an entrepreneur, as a woman founder, as a growth stage startup founder, so on and so forth. This actually allows you to take it a step further. So for this one, this is actually going a little bit more into how, like, getting started as a startup founder in Baltimore. And then the topics are specifically focused on getting started, as a founder, some structured support for your startup, getting connected with other members, and then finding funding with Baltimore's tech community. So again, this is just like an example when it comes to Baltimore's tech ecosystem for startup founders, but you can do the same thing for ESOs. You can do the same thing for honestly accelerators, for incubators, for different types of people within your ecosystem for them to really understand exactly like where to get started. Because some people get overwhelmed when it comes to the entrepreneurial journey. So it's great to be able to walk them through specific ways in order to navigate the specific barriers or to really elevate themselves as an entrepreneur or a different type of audience type. So in this example, the subtopics really go over like this opportunity to really uplift and talk about the parent organization that actually owns the EcoMap, as well as talk about some subtopics such as the ESOs that are available for startup founders, as well as established tech communities. And then as you go through the guide, you will be able to see each of the subtopics are really curated when it comes to the specific topic. So when it comes to support, this is focused on what are support resources that are available specifically for startup founders. So accelerators is a common one, incubators are a common one, and then educational programs, office hours, and workshops are another thing that people can explore. Then getting connected, we all know that having a community is just as important and valuable as an entrepreneur. So this really walks through how to actually utilize the platform to grow your network and build your community as a startup founder. So this can be through events and meetups. This can be through conferences. If you're a coder or programmer, it maybe hackathons. Co-working spaces are also another great way to really get connected when it comes to the tech ecosystem as a startup entrepreneur. And then finally, this one is specifically focused on funding within Baltimore Tech's community. So this one really starts to curate dependent on what stage you are as a startup founder. So you might be in the idea stage. If you go over to that section, it'll start talking a little bit more about that and then list some assets that are available for idea stage startups. And then that goes on further and further for early stage funding and then late stage funding as well. And then the last example I want to show is the opportunity to really highlight a specific asset and give a little bit more of an overview of the specific asset that's available. So this is what we call a program or accelerator spotlight. For Long Beach, we were able to create one for an upcoming accelerator that they have called Long Beach Business Accelerator. And then when it comes to the topics, it really dives into a little bit more about the accelerator, who should apply. So like sometimes you want to know, just get straight to the point and understand who is eligible or are there any restrictions to applying to the program. And then as well as preparing to apply, I think that is actually one of the best ways to really utilize and repurpose assets that are available on your platform. So for that specific section, that allows you to actually start highlighting some of the assets. So these assets are available on the platform and are recommended to utilize when it comes to applying for this specific accelerator. And then each of the subtopics has a deeper dive into each of those assets, as well as their available resources that they are affiliated with that specific asset. So this one, I do think that is a great way to, for example, if you want to invite someone to sponsor or be a partner when it comes to a guide, this is a format that I would recommend for people to follow to really highlight if they have a specific program or accelerator that they want to really get a little bit more notification with and an overview for people who are interested in applying for it. And then I will also say that really absolutely take advantage of that partnership and sponsorships when it comes to guides, because again, we want to make sure for people to really understand exactly what the program looks like, and these can be timeless. If the accelerator, when it comes to this specific guide, this is an accelerator that is ongoing. This accelerator, there are accelerators that accept applications year round on a quarterly basis. If you set up these guides, this is when it comes to like the next round or then the next cohort, you can just direct people to the specific guide to learn a little bit more about the specific accelerator or the program so that they know exactly what are the next steps that they have to do, and then to make sure to prepare them to be the best applicant when it comes to those specific programs. And
Yeah,
then
awesome. Super
stage,
helpful. Yeah, go ahead.
yes. um, Going back to the list. So for with the example that I showed with Rise Charlotte, you saw that we highlighted some assets that are available on the platform. So I just want to really emphasize that the call using list as your call to action. So for this platform, MSP Startup Guide, you see a collection of lists that they have. And for example, you can create a graphic that showcases ESOs for startup founders and then really highlight what those assets specifically are. The call to action can drive them back into a specific guide to really explore the entirety of that list. So like if the link were to show a little bit more, if you press on organizations, you will be able to see the full list, and like you don't want a carousel or a graphic to host all of these assets, but you do want to take the opportunity to highlight some of the assets that are within this list, and maybe that will pique their interest, and then that will convert them to really explore other ESOs that are available for startup founders. So this is just like an example when it comes to like really utilizing and taking an advantage of lists. Another way that you can also take advantage of lists is, again, I keep on emphasizing sponsorships and partnerships because those are existing networks that you should tap into. So you can invite your sponsors to also create lists as well, and then have them share it within their network. So if there are thought leaders that have resources that they want to add to the platform, take it a step further and invite them to also create a list and share it within their network, within their newsletter, or so on and so forth. So really taking advantage of like what is the tools that are features that are available on the EcoMap, use it to your advantage when it comes to promoting it within your ecosystem.
Love that. This is super helpful. Anything else you want to share with the audience before we open up to Q&A?
Yeah, I think that one other thing that I will say that is that be very, very privy when it comes to your messaging, when it comes to your ecosystem. When it comes to branding, that's the way that you want to show up within your ecosystem. So understanding your audience is a avenue to really being consistent when it comes to that messaging. So really make sure that you understand like how are you actually resonating with your audience, and then showing up in a consistent manner, not just within frequency, but also within messaging. So I really definitely emphasize that and encourage people to really explore that. And then also going back a little bit more into different ways to really like supercharge your ecosystem, really lean into like different trends that that are upcoming now. I would not shy away from video, also because like you don't need it to be picture perfect. You don't need it to be necessarily in 4K, but I will say that I think that people really value like high quality. But if you have like a format that you want to practice, to share specific assets or to share things within like a list, within an ecosystem, I would definitely highly encourage that. Or if really lean into the way, like the best way for you to do it, or the best way that your ecosystem receives that information. So it might be written content. You might be wanting to promote that when it comes to LinkedIn. There are people that do a great job of sharing their assets and resources that are available within their ecosystem. And it could be as simple as just like tagging the like the asset, like the organization or the resource, and then sharing that's something that's available within your ecosystem. It could be as easy as going on live and then walking through the platform with other people so that they can really understand like how the platform works. It could even go as far as if you're camera shy, that is no problem. You can use your voice. So you can also do more audio. You can do audiograms and then also, again, creating space, creating a seat at the table and reaching out to podcasts or panel discussions or ways to really get the word out. So definitely lean into when it comes to engagement. I encourage people to lean into what they already have to either repurpose and then also their strengths. So you don't have to do the graphics, even though it might be a visual like a visual aid for people. They might be more curated and more engaging when it comes to audio. You could use newsletters or you could use when it comes to video. There are so many different avenues when it comes to engaging your ecosystem. Just really focus on like one or two that really work best for your audience so that you can really get them engaged and so that you can make sure that they are seeing the value of that specific platform.
This has been such a helpful session, Adama. Thank you so much. I want to open the floor up for questions a little bit, to see if anyone from the audience has any specific follow-up items. If our moderator can let us know if there's any questions that come in, we can start looking at those. But in the meantime, if not, how can people stay connected with you? How can people begin to do some of this work with you?
Yeah. So I am lead product marketer at for engagement. So if you don't have the capacity to work on all of these strategies that I have shared, that is my job. That's where I come in. So I can come in and support when it comes to developing the strategy, creating the content, as well as really implementing some of these strategies when it comes to creating a list of communities that could be sponsorship opportunities or the monthly newsletters and creating an automated monthly newsletter to communicate with your ecosystem. So that's the best way to really work with me if you have any questions when it comes to that. I also encourage if you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to me on engagement@ecomap.tech. I always offer myself as a resource and I always try to give as much knowledge as possible and give people next steps as well. So feel free to reach out to me on that email as well. But those are just like a couple of ways that you can work with me. Also, I love connecting with people on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn as well. Or if you want to just like have a further discussion and have additional questions on how to actually curate your messaging and engagement within your ecosystem, feel free to reach out to me.
And if I'm a current EcoMap customer, and I want to add on engagement services, what's the best way to do that? Should I just contact my customer experience manager?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah. Contact.
contact your customer success manager if you're interested in adding engagement services into your package, and then they will share with you next steps. I usually do an onboarding call with the customers so that I can get a little bit more knowledge about their ecosystem and make sure that we're creating their engagement to their specific platform.
Perfect. Super helpful, Adama. I know I learned a lot today, so thank you so much. Any last parting words before we continue on with our day today?
No, I think
Great.
that's pretty much
Okay.
it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you all for attending. I hope this was helpful for everyone, and we will see you at the next ecosystem talks. Bye.